Hello, my name's Clive and I'm the author of CTk Theme Builder. Okay, so what is CTk Theme Builder? If you're a Python programmer and you are into writing user interfaces, graphic user interfaces, you've probably heard of CustomTkinter. Well, CTk Theme Builder is a way in which you can build themes which you can use in conjunction with CustomTkinter. By default, CustomTkinter comes with three themes. You've got a blue, a green and a dark blue theme that you can have use out of the box. Well, this lets you expand on that selection of themes, and you can ship the themes that you develop with your applications. You also have a few themes, sample themes provided with CTk Theme Builder as well, and we'll look at one of those themes, or at least a theme derived from one of those themes, which I'm going to be using just to demonstrate here. Okay, let's just cover the basics. I just want to cover the basics in this theme, and I'll probably cover off some other aspects of CTk Theme Builder in other videos, including how to install CTk Theme Builder, which you can install on Windows or Linux. You might be able to install it on Mac. I'm not sure yet. I've not got around to testing it on Mac because I don't have one, but I've got plans to try and verify or debug, if necessary, the installation process on Mac. It might actually work, I don't know, but I would be interested if there's anybody out there who tries to install it on Mac, and just to let me know how they get on. So there's actually a discussions option on GitHub where you can get hold of the CTk Theme Builder, so any feedback is welcome on there. I'll post a link to how you can get to that, by the way, after the video. Okay, so we've got various options, as you can see, on the left hand side and also within the menu, and some of these options in the menu map to, well, a fair bit actually, map to the options on the buttons. But you can also notice that hopefully that these are disabled here and down here. We've only got the quit and new theme options enabled because we're not actually currently working on a theme. So we keep the program keeps track of the state of where you're at and enables and disables options accordingly. And you can see on the menu as well that most of the options are disabled. So let's open up a theme. I've got one called Demo 2, which I basically just copied in place just so I can have a play around with it for the benefit of this video. And it's based on this green gauge theme here. So as soon as you open the theme, or in fact if you create a new theme, what happens is this preview panel appears. This is the control panel and this is the preview panel. There's also a QA application here which you can use to get an idea of how your theme's coming along through an alternate application. This is WYSIWYG, so as you change things here on this side, you'll see the changes appear here instantaneously. The QA app doesn't work in the same mode. It's basically a snapshot in time, so whatever your theme looks like at the given time when you launch the QA app, I'll just quickly launch it, is that's how you'll see it. And I'll explain a little bit more as to why we've got the QA app a bit later on. Because you might think, well, you can see what the theme looks like here, why do I need this? Well, I'll go into that after we've covered a bit more of the more pressing stuff. So we've got the theme open. You can see that various options are now enabled. The save button's disabled because we've not made any changes. As soon as you start making any changes, that save button will become enabled again. And when you click save, it will become disabled until you make subsequent changes. Starting at the top anyway, we've got the theme selection. You've already seen that. I can select an existing theme from the collection. We've also got the widget geometry buttons here, so you can go into here and say if I selected frame, I could change the corner radius we've currently got the corner radius set to 6. If we set it to a larger number, it will become more rounded. So you can see here the change immediately, hopefully. You can see how it's become more rounded. If I set it to say, set to 25 or 26, 25, and then if I save that, you'll see the corner radius change here, like so. And similarly, if I was to change the, say, a button, the foreground button colour, which is the colour that you can see now without hovering over it, you can see that we've got this green colour, and I can change the shade of it by going darker or lighter by using the right click on the tile and then choosing from the floating menu. So if I was to make that, let's make it darker, actually it might be more obvious. So if I make that 3 steps darker, you can see it just changed, and I can repeat that again, and it gets darker still. I can reset the change back to the last save, or if I've not done a save, back to when you load the theme, and what will happen is it will reset the colour here, and it will reset this display, and you'll see that the button goes lighter again. There you go, and this colour's been reset also. There's another option. You can also choose the colour picker here, and I could make more drastic changes than the simple colour shade changes. So if I select a totally different colour, you can see the colour changes there. Here we've got the theme palette. Basically, you probably, well, it's up to you, but the way I work this is I try to establish the colours I'm going to use for a theme and place them in the theme palette. There's also actually an option up here called Colour Harmonics, and you can basically choose colours here, and it will generate complementary colours depending on one of a number of methods actually. So you can pick different colour methods, and if I click the copy to palette, it will copy them into these scratch tiles here. I'll copy that over, and you can see these colours here have been copied over. You can also right click and copy colours into the copy paste buffer on any of these tiles, and in addition you can tag this keystone colour method into the actual theme file, so that the next time you're working on the theme, if you've had a break and you reopen the application and you load that theme, when you next come into here, it will automatically remember which colour you'd use to seed the keystone colour and the method as well, and it will just auto regenerate these. So I'll close that off for now. I just reset that so that we go back to the original colours, and I just want to cover a few more of the options down here. Oh, by the way, on here you've also got options for copying and pasting between here and here. You can even copy from here and paste into these if you need to at any given time. So you can pick the colour picker here as well, and again you can pick the colour picker on here if you want to change colours via the colour picker. I might try and write a new colour picker in future. This is just basically the native Python colour picker that you get on Linux distributions. On Windows you'll see a more complicated looking dialog will appear because it adopts the Windows colour picker. Okay, so let's just talk about the QA app anyway. So you might think on first sight that you know, there's not much difference in terms of what you can get out of the QA app. Well, the first thing is the QA app is a little bit more, slightly more sophisticated than the preview panel. This was actually, the QA app is based on something that Tom Szymanski wrote to demonstrate CustomTkinter. He's the guy that designed and engineered the CustomTkinter framework. So I basically lifted his complex example Python program, and I enhanced it to basically work with the CTk Theme Builder. So anyway, let's just talk about a little bit about the subtleties of CustomTkinter. If we go to CTk frame, you'll see that we've got an FG color and we've got a top FG color. Now, the way that CustomTkinter works is that if you embed a frame within another frame, then the inner frame gets rendered with the top FG color. So you may, depending on how you've structured the application, you may not see the effect of this. If I click off this top frame method, basically what it does is it simulates not actually having a frame embedded in another frame, and if you just watch around the edges, you'll see what happens. So it flattens it somewhat. Yeah. Now, this now is more in line with the way the QA app works. The QA app doesn't use any embedded frames, and so it does kind of help you more at a glance to see what the effect is of your theme, and you know, rendering your theme with basically slightly different widget layering. So that in itself is a good reason to occasionally use the QA app. Oh, by the way, these three panels here now that you're seeing, so we've got the control panel, the preview panel, and then we've got the QA app panel. When you close the program, it remembers where you last left them, so that the next time you open the program, it will put them in the same place. So you can close the QA app here. You can't close the preview panel until you close the control panel. It automatically will close that, but you can close the QA app with this button here. You can also open it multiple times, so if you're making changes and you want to compare between snapshots, you can use the QA app for that as well, which is another reason why you might want to launch it. It might be that you're making subtle changes and you can't decide whether what you changed it from was better or not, and so you can launch the QA app and compare them side by side. So I'll just close that off. If I'd hit the quit, it would close this automatically, but I'll close it anyway from here. Okay, let's just cover off some of the file and tools options. Some of these are already, I think I mentioned before, maybe I didn't, but I thought I'd mentioned that they're covered off with buttons on the control panel. But we've got flip modes here, for example, which isn't. And it might be that you're developing a theme and you suddenly decide, actually, my light mode looks darker than the dark mode, and you want to swap the modes around. So that's what this does. You can just click yes, and you'll instantly see that this swaps around and it's flipped around for you. And then we have the provenance option. This lets you see who created the theme, when it was last modified and who by, as well as the seeded keystone information for the keystone color and method that was used. Moving on to the tools, we've got preferences. I won't cover all of these, but I will cover most of them. Author name, which goes into the provenance. We've got the control panel theme that you want to use. You've got a selection of a whole bunch of these. If you change this, you need to restart the app for it to come into effect, which isn't the case with the appearance mode. If you change the appearance mode, it's instant. Excuse me. You can switch tooltips on and off. As you go through the app, you'll notice that there's a liberal sprinkling of tooltips, and you can switch them off if you want, if you find that they're getting in the way or whatever. I tend to leave them on. I don't have a problem with them, but I would recommend that you keep those enabled until you get familiarized with CTk Theme Builder, just so that you don't overlook some subtleties. I'm not going to say too much about the confirm cascade option because it's related to something I don't want to cover in this video. I might cover it in a later video, but essentially there's a cascade option on these colour palette buttons, and it's related to that. You can switch off the theme palette labels, so these labels here can be switched off, and it saves you a little bit of space. I tend to leave them switched on because I use the cascade option and they are related to that functionality. Load latest theme, that was previously labelled as load last theme. I've just recently changed that, but essentially once that's enabled, it means that CTk Theme Builder remembers which theme you were last working on. So when you relaunch the application, whichever theme was that last theme that you were working on the last time you were in CTk Theme Builder, it will automatically open it and launch the preview panel. Single click paste is something that I tend to have disabled. You probably noticed when I was right clicking on here on these buttons and on these tiles that there were copy paste options in there. With a single click paste, it means that you can just left click on whilst hovering over a tile, and it will paste whatever colour you've got in your copy paste buffer in there. I tend not to use it because if you get trigger happy, you can make changes you didn't intend to. Okay. Control panel scaling and preview panel scaling and QA app scaling. I set these to 90%, 80% and 80%. What that does is it controls the widget scaling, and it means that you can make the panels more or less compact. With these settings, for the control panel, it's a nice compromise for me. I can see just enough detail without making the panel too large. 80 and 80 here for me with resolution on my screen means that I can stack the preview panel on above the QA app. They both fit in there just about right for me. Depending on your resolution of your monitor and what you might want to play around with those. When you do change them, you'll want to resize the windows and make them just right, because one of the things about CustomTkinter applications is that it can be a bit difficult at times to try and make them responsive. But if you resize them and make them just how you want them, as I mentioned before, the application will remember the geometry of the various panels and what have you, where you left them and the sizing. The shade step options here, they cover two areas, as you might imagine. There would have been two of them. We've got the adjust shade step, and that covers the right click functionality where you want to do lighter and darker shade. So for example here we've got a value of 5. So if you were to right click and say lighter shade times 2 on one of the tiles, what it would do is it would adjust the colour channels by a value of 10. 2 times 5 is 10. Similarly with the harmony shade step, when you launch the harmony pop-up dialog, on the right hand side you may or may not have noticed that all those colour tiles on the right hand side, they were varying in shade, and they went from lighter to darker as you look down the colours, and it's this value that determines how much the shade variations are implemented. and this option here, the listener option, is used to control what happens in terms of communication between, or it controls the port on which the communication occurs between the control panel and the preview panel. So as you're making changes here, instructions are sent via a socket, a network socket, to a listener process is listening on within the preview panel, and that's how we get it to do the changes. So if you change a colour here, you see it instantly appear here. It's via communication. Now you can only use one socket at a time, well, with one instance of CTk Theme Builder. So if you try to launch the application twice, it will detect it and you'll get a message popping up, and it will just block you from trying to have two instances of the application running. If you want two versions, if you want to run two versions of CTk Theme Builder at the same time, what you need to do is check for one of them, is pick a different port. So that's why that's there really. It's also there in case you've got a clash with some other software that's using the port that CTk Theme Builder wants to use, so you can change it here for that purpose as well. Down here there's an option where you can select where your themes are stored. By default it uses a user_themes directory below where you install CTk Theme Builder. If you do change that, just bear in mind that it won't automatically move all your theme files for you. You'll have to copy and paste those into the new location if you want to retain them. Okay, I'll just cover the About dialog. If you have any problems with CTk Theme Builder, then if you go to GitHub, you can create an issue against the project, the repository, and it's a good idea if you're logging an issue to mention the version of CTk Theme Builder, which in this case is 2.3.0, and also the version of CustomTkinter that you're using, and that just makes life a bit easier when trying to solve any issues. And I think that's about it. Hopefully you'll find the video useful, and stay tuned. I'll try and put together another video, maybe just showing how to get started with creating a theme and using the cascade option, and explaining a bit more about the cascade option that you see here. So thank you for watching, and stay tuned.